All right. Hey, we are ready to head into the second week of our second unit. And just a reminder that Sunday at midnight is our firm deadline. And I mentioned this in my midweek little note, I think last week. And I don't want to overemphasize this, and yet I really think it's important. Those of you who are already teaching know this to be true, and I know that you realize that as students of education, that deadlines are just very important. A lot of our deadlines that we're dealing with at a district level are actually enforced by a state level, and we can't drop them. So just as kind of good practice, and I think because we need to require our students to learn deadlines and that concept, I'm going to be I want to be firm on those. That's not to say that I won't be understanding. You email me and say, hey, really rough week. I get that because we all have them. I've been fighting viruses on my um, home laptop, and I'm annoyed beyond belief because every time I get into Firefox on I learn to grade, all these pop-ups come out and I can then literally not see the screen. Had it into Geek Squad, the whole 9 yards. So I know stuff comes up, literally pop-ups come up in your screen, and stuff comes up. But so I don't want to overemphasize this, but please do communicate with me as we're going through this, and let me know what's going on if things are not getting turned in on time. And let's talk, okay? Let's look and see what is going on this week. The second part of Unit 2. Oh, and I also know that for that first blog, that was totally on me, and don't worry about that deadline. If you're still trying to figure out where everything went, I'm going to show you that in a second. Okay, so again, it's very important that you use Firefox. It'll look like it's working if you use Chrome or if you use Internet Explorer, but what will happen is that it will show up for you and then it will disappear and I can't see it. So if you do not have a grade for something at the end of a unit, it could very well be that for some reason maybe you used a different browser. So let's make sure you're keeping track of your grades. And I know the gradebook's a little squirrely right now because the new blog is clear over to the side. But do scroll through there and make sure everything that you thought was turned in has been recognized. I'm making this video on Friday the 23rd, and I still haven't gotten to the wikis yet, but hopefully I'll get to those before the weekend. My MO is usually going to be to make sure everything is, obviously due, and then I grade. So, but I try to get some comments in a little earlier than that for the discussion board at least. Doesn't always happen. Okay, so looking at Unit 2, we're looking at the role of the teacher, really trying to think through how we're going to structure our classroom. I pair those two together because I believe that our goals and what we think this ideology of what our role is only happens if we can effectively pair it with a structuring of our classroom that echoes what we mean. I might want to be the approachable, safe haven teacher, but if my room is structured, if my walls are decorated in a way that speaks rules and um, is not inviting, or if even the arrangement of my chairs isn't, I could be unintentionally undermining what I really want to set up in my classroom. So really think about it. Think about classrooms as you walk into them. What's your first impression and what's your student's first impression of your classroom? Sometimes we get so used to something that we don't realize what it speaks. Kind of like a old haircut or that pair of shoes that we just told my husband he must get rid of. Okay? We meaning my 15-year-old who suddenly is on my side with things like that. All right, here we go. The wiki this week is going to lay a foundation for the entire course. The wiki here is going to be something we build on. So this is not unchangeable. You can edit, you can change these out. But what I want you to do is start looking for writing tasks that you really think you might use. I really want this to be a practical thing. If you're already teaching and there's something that you want to redo or reinvent, that's fine. But if you're looking for something fresh, I would encourage you to do that. I know we're doing a lot of transitions with new curriculum, so you may have already rewritten something recently. I know I have for my sophomores because We are starting to introduce the Common Core, even though they're taking the OGT this year. So what I'm saying here is, don't rinse, wash, repeat. Don't do the same old, same old. If you've already been teaching, if you've seen something done and you really love it and you want to imitate it, that's great. But also lend your own flavor. So you're in another teacher's room observing, and you see a writing activity you love. It's okay if these are not 100% original writing tasks. And I'm purposely not saying writing prompt or writing assignment or essay, because I want to keep it open enough that you can think in terms of um, what you want to make this. So I don't want to put too much of my fingerprints on your work. So here's what we're doing this week. You're going to create 4 writing tasks. There's going to be some sort of, prompt or activity. I would like it to be written in student language, or at least there should be a version of it that is student language, so that you could literally copy and paste this work onto a worksheet or onto your school's LMS, your website, whatever, and students could pull it off there and understand it. And again, I'm speaking for kids who read, so those of you who have lower end kids or whatever, you're thinking in terms of what they would need to get them set up. I'd like you to give me some annotation with rationale for student engagement and overall classroom tone setting. In other words, we've been talking about your role as a teacher. We've been talking about how we're going to run a classroom. After you have, the task written out, I'd like a column perhaps, or a bullet point, however you want to set this up, telling me about why you think this will be engaging to students, because if they don't do it, we can't really get much information from it, right? How it will fit with your overall ideologue of your ideals for what the classroom tone will be. In other words, how will the content that you give the students and how you assess them, how will it sustain the classroom climate that you're intending? Obviously, there's no silver bullet, and we're all making some guesses here, but I would like annotation for each of the writing tests, how each one will specifically do that. I'd like you also to explain how the lesson will be structured at a macro level. I would like you to think in terms of workshop. Got a few reasons for that. I don't think workshops are the only way, and there might be days where you're mostly in lecture mode. I attended a great blended learning luncheon yesterday with the author of the new book, Blended. And honestly, he lectured the whole time, and he acknowledged that he was doing a type of teaching that he's not really promoting in schools. And it hit me that there are going to be days where you're going to be front and center, laying the groundwork. There are days where you have to get concepts taught. But I'd really encourage you to see yourself as a mentor, as a coming alongside person in your classroom. So, how could these 4 writing tasks lead into a writing workshop? Will there be some sort of mini lesson and then a take-home task? Could it be set up in stations? And the other thing, when we're thinking of these 4 writing tasks, maybe you have a big writing project that you break down into 4 tasks. If we leap ahead a minute, we're going to be talking about formative and summative writing, and I'm going to ask you to have a combination and label your assignment. So that's not yet, but what I want you to be intentional about is how you're using these writings as assessments, because they are. When we ask a student to write, we are giving them practice and experiences that are either, I'm getting ahead of myself on the formative and summative thing, but we are assessing. So how are you going to design these from a student perspective? How is it going to be written? What's your rationale for classroom climate? And then briefly the how. This doesn't need to be a play by play, blow by blow. We're going to get there, okay? But just in brief, it can be just a straight out explanation. I envision this prompt as leading into part of a sequence with this would be a bell warm up type activity. I envision students with journals doing this. What is it? Just more big picture. You can edit this stuff. So just because you write it in your wiki this week doesn't mean it's a one and done. Now I'm stuck with it type activity. Hope that makes sense. If you didn't get a chance to really read the first 2 units readings, you might want to go back and glance through some of those just to kind of keep tabs. Feel like sometimes as instructors, we really buy into this whole like first you do this, then you do this, then you do this, when really learning is a lot messier than that, right? We can have a plan that looks like this. I've got this very linear syllabus going on, but I want you to use it interactively and maybe go back and rewatch a video. Maybe you're feeling a little like me, a little cynical about teaching right now. I might need to pull out Rita Pearson one more time, you know what I'm saying? To remind me that it's not really about me, it's not really about tests, it's about kids. So, what is it that you might need? Just thinking about these things. And we do have a couple things in the classroom I want to show you. And I wanted to also point out kind of what I see when I look at what I'm, just a couple things where to find things. There we go. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, so again, there's rubrics here that I'm using. This is for the final wiki, but you can kind of see what your target is. Just to reiterate, discussion boards are casual conversations. They don't have to be research driven. Blogs can be casual in tone and they definitely can bring in personal experiences, but I want them to be driven more by your research. Okay. We already talked about this guest lecture from Michelle Miranda. If you haven't had a chance to pull that up, or if the link's not working for you, you let me know. I have had some concern over that. I relinked it. Don't know if it works now or not. So, check that out. She has some good ideas. She's a really incredible instructor. Looking down at where you do the writing then, the new blog is where I'm having problems finding people's work. The old blog mixes you in with another class. It's very sloppy and messy. Could you just copy and paste? Make sure you're in Firefox for me for Unit 1. Okay, then in Unit 2, I already have 7 posts, so, and it's just Friday, so I know some of you are working ahead on that. That's wonderful. Remember, this week you're applying to 2 peers. Could you mix it up a little? Make sure everybody's getting some feedback, and then we'll work on this Unit 2. I did rebuild this blog, I am quite certain, so that you don't see other students in it, but it's asking you, you're doing that this past week, so this week you are replying to 2 students in the blog and create a good conversation here. Give some suggestions, throw out some resources. I've seen some great new resources floating around. And then we are on Wiki 2 now, and you'll be building in the next installment of your wiki. You do not need to reply to wikis. Later on, I'm hoping to set up one wiki where you can kind of tour each other's wikis and be peer editors and that kind of thing. But for right now, we're going to use that just as your private space, which I know is kind of funny because usually a wiki is considered a collaborative space, but we're using it in the portfolio sense. Hope you have a great week, and if there's anything that I can do to help you make your experience better, please let me know. And let's hope for some sunshine. It's gray again today. I'm even wearing gray. I think it's just, we need some sunshine, right? I think it's just something energizing about that. So don't fall asleep. Have a good week. And let's hope for some sunshine.